Okay. Just one. All right. Well, we're at 19. Shall we get going? Thumbs up, Brenda? Yeah? Okay. All right. So thank you guys very much for joining us. This is a presentation, a webinar from Proactive Seniors. And today we're going to be talking about recognizing when it's time for help. And so whether you're a senior or the family member of a senior, it's nice to think about what are the signs that it might be time for help. And the second part of our presentation will be delivered by Brenda, my colleague, and she'll be talking about how to handle those difficult conversations. So just to let everybody know, we're just going to record this webinar so that we can put it on our website. So if you know anyone that missed it, or you want to share it with anybody or listen to it again, you'll be able to find the link to it on our website. And I'm just going to mute everybody. It'll just take me a second. So that we don't have any background noise. And then at the end of the presentation, you can unmute yourselves, and that will allow us to have question and answers. Just trying to mute everybody. Let's see. Give me a second. Device settings. Device options. Allow attendees to unmute. I'm just going to turn that off for now. Okay, so we're going to get started, and I'm just going to load up our PowerPoint presentation, which will we be going through with everybody. Just one second. Good. Okay, Judy, can you give me the thumbs up if you can see the presentation? Good. Okay, super. Here we go. Okay, so Proactive Seniors is the name of our company. And as I mentioned, the presentation, just for anyone who's recently joined, is about recognizing when it's time for help and handling those difficult conversations. So we're going to have everybody on mute for the duration of the presentation, and we'll unmute you at the end. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat feature, which is the little icon on the top of your screen, or maybe on the side of your screen, that looks like a comment bubble. So you can type your questions in there, and we'll go through them at the end, or you can just hang on to them and we'll unmute everybody and we can have a conversation if there's any questions. Okay. Just going on to the next slide. Okay, so the first two slides are just an introduction to Proactive Seniors, just in case you guys aren't familiar with us, a little bit about who we are. We're an advisory service for seniors and their families, and we've been doing this business since 2016. We are located in Calgary, Edmonton, and Kelowna. And we have a team of 9 advisors from various different backgrounds, from healthcare, seniors care, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, gerontology. And we all share a common passion to ensure that seniors and their families have the support that they need to thrive, to be happy, healthy, safe, and most importantly, to enjoy their time together. I'll just talk briefly about the services that we offer. Proactive Seniors Planning helps to ensure that seniors who want to stay home or return to home, that they have a detailed action plan on how to be successful with that goal. Seniors Housing Support ensures that seniors who want or need to move to a more supported living environment are able to find the location that is their best fit to optimize their health and happiness. Dementia Care Coaching ensures that families who are caring for a loved one with dementia have access to ongoing personal support for this challenging journey. Family Support is an intermittent support that we provide to our clients where we can accompany them to appointments or help them to complete some of the recommended action items from their Proactive Seniors Plan, and generally just filling in the gaps that are not met through the public health, home care, or other services available. And finally, we have occupational therapy and physical therapy. These two professionals are on our team, and they're able to provide mobile treatment or intervention for our clients as needed. Okay, so let's get started with our topic for today. So the first half of the presentation will be focused on noticing the signs that could indicate a senior might need some additional help. We at Proactive Seniors, as you can tell by our name, are very focused on helping families get support early before a preventable crisis, illness, or injury occurs. Seniors are at a higher risk of not having optimal outcomes from acute care, such as surgeries. Sorry, I just got a message here. Accept. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, I just got a message from someone and I accepted it thinking that it was going to log them in. So seniors are at a higher risk of not having optimal outcomes from acute care, such as surgeries or hospitalization. There is a tendency for these interventions to result in prolonged incapacity or inactivity, which is harmful for seniors. Often anesthesia or additional medications or simply being in the hospital can bring on delirium. And as we all know too well right now, being in an institutional setting or a long-term care facility carries the additional risk of being infected with other things. So it's our belief that by recognizing the early signs of difficulties and getting support in place early helps seniors to avoid a lot of the problems that arise when support is left too late. The most common areas where seniors start to show signs of needing help are in their physical health and mobility, their mental health and cognitive capacities, how they are managing their complex medication regime, and if they're eating properly, and finally, if they're safe in their home. For each of these common areas, we will talk about the signs to look out for and the tips for seniors themselves or for those who are helping to take care of seniors to help manage some of these issues. But overall, most often the common solutions for getting help are either additional family support, in-home support services, community support services, or relocation to a retirement residence where supports are provided. We are lucky that there are a lot of options for support available. However, we're not going to be going into detail on those services in this webinar. That'll be the topic of another webinar. Okay. So let's start with the signs. Does anyone else hear an echo? Yeah, sorry, let me just see if I can address that. Give me just 1 second. Okay, is the echo gone? Maybe Linda, not, thank you. I can only just see you, Linda. Okay, so let's start with the signs that there may be a problem with one's physical health or mobility. Staying healthy and active are key components to maintaining independence, and it is often much harder to come back to your current level of health and function after an injury or illness than it is to put the time and effort into staying healthy and mobile. So signs that a senior is starting to struggle in this area often include the obvious signs such as illness that you would notice with a fever or chills, coughing, a cold or a flu. But then the additional ones are delirium or confusion. This is often relatively sudden onset, and more often than not, it is related to either an infection like a urinary tract infection or an imbalance of electrolytes. A urinary tract infection presents differently in seniors than it does in the younger population, and it is a very common cause for hospitalization or falls. Seniors may not have pain or discomfort as their initial symptoms, but it would rather be confusion and disorientation. Other signs of a health issue are unexplained weight loss, which may be a sign of a serious underlying medical issue. Seniors who are sleeping more than usual or seem drowsy may also be unwell. All of these signs should be addressed with the doctor as soon as possible. Early treatment might be able to be done at home, and you could avoid a hospital stay. From a mobility perspective, seniors may start having difficulty getting in and out of bed, up and down from a chair or a toilet, in and out of the shower or bath or car, and these are all referred to as transfers. So we might notice seniors having difficulty with transfers. They might be showing reduced walking tolerance or unsteadiness or challenges with stairs. And obviously, if they are falling or almost falling, this is a very high-risk situation for serious injury. So early intervention with physical or occupational therapy or a senior-specific fitness program can really help to identify what the causes of the mobility issue might be and help to preserve strength and function. The second issue is mental health and cognition, where we might start to see some signs of challenges. Depression and anxiety are very common in seniors, but older adults are typically not very good at reaching out for help in this area. So signs of an issue with depression or anxiety might include apathy or a lack of interest in engaging with others, sadness that is persistent, a loss of interest in eating, or conversely, eating too much or relying on alcohol. Sleeping more than one would normally find normal is a common sign of depression, and not taking care of one's personal hygiene. Cognitive changes are common as we age, but there is a difference between normal age-related memory challenges and clinically diagnosed dementia. So signs that a memory change might require further assessment from a physician could include forgetting important information such as names, dates, and events that are highly meaningful. Now don't panic, we all forget names, dates, and important events every once in a while, but if it's happening on a regular basis, that would be a sign that you should look into getting some support. If the senior is demonstrating a change in personality, such as being more aggressive or perhaps showing signs of paranoia, that's a sign to get support. Seniors with cognitive concerns may demonstrate more confusion later in the day or in the evening, and this is considered sundowning and is a common sign of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And finally, if a senior is no longer taking care about their personal hygiene and how they dress, this may be a sign as well that they are starting to experience some cognitive problems. The third area of signs of needing help is within medication management. Medication mix-ups are a significant risk for seniors because 70% of seniors take 5 or more medications and 10% of them take 15 or more medications. And it is really easy to get the timing and the dosages of this many medications mixed up, particularly if there's complicated instructions about when to take them. Medications taken in the wrong dose or wrong timing can have negative consequences, and seniors are particularly vulnerable to adverse reactions because of aging changes in how we process medication. What people don't realize is that suddenly stopping a medication can also have some serious consequences as well. So this needs to be done with guidance. So let's talk about the signs of a problem with medication management. Have you noticed an increase in unsteadiness or falls? Does your loved one indicate that they're dizzy or lightheaded? Those might be signs that there's an issue with their medications. Is there a change in their cognitive state? Are they confused or disoriented or drowsy? These may be signs of a medication problem. Are the symptoms for which a medication was prescribed recurring, or are they having unusual side effects? These issues may indicate that the senior is either over or under medicated, or that they're not taking their medications properly, or that they're having some negative interactions between their medications. Do you notice that there are pills on the floor or under the furniture? These little pills can be hard to handle, especially if you have arthritic hands or poor vision, and finding pills on the floor would indicate that they are not being taken properly. A prescription lasting, are prescriptions not lasting the anticipated length of time? So are you either running out too soon or are they lasting too long? And this would indicate that the pills are not being taken as directed. A couple examples of medication mismanagement that we've seen in our work. We had a client who we met after she'd been moved into a secure memory unit because of dementia. And it turned out that actually what the problem was long-lasting delirium because her medications were causing such significant constipation. Resolving the medication and bowel issue led to a resolution of the delirium, and we were able to help her move from a memory care unit into an independent living retirement residence. And that's not the direction people are usually going, so that was really nice. We had another client who was in late stage Alzheimer's disease, and he was the cheeriest man I've ever met, absolutely delightful. And when we reviewed his medication list, we noticed that he was taking a type of antidepressant that was quite old. It's not commonly used, and it didn't seem like he needed an antidepressant. So we talked to his wife about this, and she said that he'd been taking it for over 30 years. He was prescribed the antidepressant when he had a job loss situation and he was going through a difficult time, and he just stayed on it indefinitely. So it's really important to make sure that your medical team and the family know what seniors are taking and why, because there may be medications that could come off the list, and it's really important not to take more than you need. So tips for better medication management include reading the information sheets that come with the prescription. Write down the detailed schedule that includes what to take, when, the dosage, and any specific instructions like whether it needs to be with food or not with grapefruit or not with dairy. Make sure that this schedule also has over-the-counter medications listed on it and the supplements that a senior takes. You want to share this medication schedule with your spouse, if you're the senior taking them, or with your family or caregivers and physicians. You want to put a copy in your green sleeve if you're in Alberta, and I think BC probably has a similar type of process where you keep track of where the medications are in case emergency services need to pick you up. You should have a copy in your wallet as well. If you are the family, be sure to understand what your loved one is taking and why, so that you can help them with their schedule and with reminders. There's an interesting new device that we are just testing out right now in which family can record a reminder, and then it will play at certain times in the senior's house over a speaker. So we're just trying that out right now to see how it works. It's a little frightening sometimes when it announces that you need to do something. You're not expecting it though. The other is to use only one pharmacy so that they know what your whole medication history is and they can identify any risks of interaction. Be sure to tell them about your over-the-counter medications and supplements. To use a dosette, which is one of those little pill organizers that has a box for each day or certain times during a day. Or even better, ask your pharmacy to put medications in blister packages. There's no additional charge, and this really helps medication mismanagement to be resolved. If you are making your own dosettes, keep the original containers and keep a pill in each one so that you know what each pill looks like for each container or each prescription. And finally, check that any over-the-counter medication hasn't expired because its effectiveness decreases with time. For any discontinued medications, make sure to give them back to the pharmacy so that you don't accidentally put them back into your circulation of using them. and your actual circulation. Okay, next, nutrition. When I was young, I recall that my grandmother used to consider toast and coffee a reasonable meal for the day. And clearly it isn't, but it is common for many seniors not to eat properly. And there are many reasons that seniors don't eat properly. It's important to figure out why and help resolve that problem. So signs that nutrition is a concern. The fridge and the cupboards may not be well stocked. This would be an indication that they're not getting groceries and therefore probably not eating well. Is the senior shrinking, getting smaller? Weight loss can be a sign of other medical issues, but its simplest cause is simply not eating enough calories. Seniors need to have a greater protein intake to maintain muscle mass, and this can often take a significant effort. When seniors become underweight, they may have increasing cognitive challenges. They may become disoriented or confused, and these are common symptoms with dehydration as well. The brain needs nutrients and water to function properly. Additionally, medications might be too strong if the body mass is getting smaller. Is the food in the fridge expired or rotting? Has your loved one had a number of foodborne illnesses, gastrointestinal issues? This might indicate that they're not eating safe food and they're getting food poisoning. We have a client and she was fully aware that she should not be cooking anymore. She had macular degeneration and had very limited vision. So her priority was getting assistance with meals because she knew she wouldn't be able to tell if food had gone off or expired, and she also wasn't comfortable with cutting or using the stove. If someone is having difficulty getting to the grocery store, they may eat more convenience foods. We had a client who we realized was eating a lot of junk food, and the reason was her inability to get to the grocery store, so she was buying her food from 7-Eleven. Depression and loneliness can often manifest in losing one's appetite or desire to eat. So if your loved one is suffering with these conditions, it's important to address and treat that part as well and make sure they have a nutritional plan. Some strategies to help improve nutrition include addressing safety in the kitchen can be important. An occupational therapist can make recommendations on how to make the kitchen safer so the senior is not scared or worried to work in that area. There's devices that can automatically turn off a stove. There's devices that can identify if there's too much humidity in an area. Seniors can have meals delivered. There's numerous options ranging in price from Meals on Wheels, which is about $3 a meal, to having a personal chef, and anything in between, fresh or frozen. Groceries can be delivered to the home. With COVID, this business has really increased. Many stores deliver themselves, but there's also other companies and volunteer organizations that will shop for seniors and deliver and put away the groceries. And this is a great service for adult children to help their parents sort out. They can even do so if they don't live in the same town because often the groceries are ordered online. If an appetite is small, choosing nutritious food is critical. Our senior who was eating too much junk food was in a low income bracket, and so we arranged for the Good Food Box program to have a monthly box of fruits and vegetables. So for $25 every month, she received a great big box full of fruits and vegetables, and it significantly improved her nutrition. You can pop over to your loved one's house and help clear out their fridge of anything that's expired. It's so hard to read those tiny little expiry dates. You can enlist the help of your family doctor or the senior's family doctor or a nutritionist. With dramatic weight loss, it's important to consider any underlying medical conditions. And finally, to make eating more sociable, once COVID is resolved, try and coincide visits with meal times so you can share a meal with your loved one. Invite them to eat with you and your family. And during COVID, perhaps you can set up a video call to have a meal together. Not eating properly is one of the main reasons that seniors may choose to move into a retirement residence. Residents have either all their meals provided for them or some of them. And one of the things they like best is the social interaction at mealtime. And finally, signs that the home isn't safe is a big concern. Has the older adult fallen in the home? Falls most often occur in the bathroom when the seniors are getting up at night. Does your loved one have bruises or burns that might indicate that they're getting hurt in their home? Do you notice burned pots or pans indicating that they're forgetting to turn off the stove? There are a lot of strategies that can be employed to make a home environment safer. Our occupational therapist does comprehensive home safety evaluations and helps to make sure that the senior is functioning well within their home. There's a plethora of equipment and modifications that can be made, such as lighting, stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, standing poles, just to name a few. There are also devices, as I mentioned before, that can help shut off a stove or indicate if there's been too much water going in the house. Seniors can wear emergency alert buttons and fall detection monitors. This is a really big area. There's lots to talk about with regards to home safety, and it just so happens to be the topic of our January webinar. Okay, so this is the end of the part I was going to talk about, and now Brenda's going to take over, and she's going to start talking about the next section, which is tips on tackling these difficult conversations. Brenda, can you talk so I know we can hear you?
I sure can.
There you go. Okay, good.
Thanks. So first of all, before I launch into this tactics for tough conversations, I wanted to apologize to the people who have been struggling to get into this meeting. There was 2 separate links for, I have no idea how it happened, but there was another link that somehow was accessed by some of the people that attended our last webinar. And it's been really challenging for me to try to share this link. So just a reminder that we are recording this. So we will be sending it out as well, the link to the recording. So you will be able to watch the first part of this with Kathy again, if you did happen to miss it. So again, our apologies. Technology works great when it works, and when it doesn't, it makes everybody crazy. So anyways, tactics for tough conversations. I think this picture really says it all, and thank you, Kathy, for that great information in the first part. There are few emotionally rewarding conversations that start with, "We really need to talk." Think about the last time you heard those words. How did it make you feel? Did your shoulders tense up, or your stomach drop, or your heart start beating rapidly? That's hardly the best frame of mind or body to start an important dialogue with a loved one. When we're faced with tough conversations, we have 3 choices. We can avoid them, like this gentleman. We can face them and handle them poorly, which is not ideal, or we can face them and handle them well. The third choice seems the obvious one, and yet our emotions inevitably get in the way. We tend to avoid difficult conversations, mainly out of fear that we're going to make things worse or cause a painful argument with our loved ones. Not dealing with the situation, however, is no solution and can actually result in negative outcomes that potentially might have been avoided. We've put together some strategies on tackling some of these tough conversations. Today, we're talking specifically about aging parents or seniors, but we hope that you're going to find these strategies work for any situation that requires an important discussion. Here are some important questions about aging that older adults and their families should be addressing. How are you feeling about getting older? Do you still feel safe to drive? Is your will up to date? Do you have a personal directive or power of attorney? What happens if you need more help? Would you consider senior living or in-home care? And last but not least, what are your wishes for a funeral or memorial? If you've already had this conversation with your loved ones, then kudos to you, because it is often not the case that people have them, and certainly they're very important. Of course, here at Proactive Seniors, we are all about the planning. And today we're going to talk about 5 tips that can help you plan for success in these difficult conversations. Start early, involve others, speak from the I perspective and not the you perspective. practice patience, and of course, work together to make a plan. Some general tips for communicating effectively. Mindfulness is kind of a buzzword these days, but really what it means is you're seeking a deeper level of awareness and understanding. And in that moment, it will help open up a flow of information from you into the person that you're dealing with. First and foremost, focus on what you're hearing, not on what you're going to say next. Be mindful of your voice and body language. 90% of how we communicate comes from not just our words, but the messages that we're conveying with our tone and our posture. Don't cross your arms or roll your eyes. Lean in, make eye contact, and speak gently. Don't be afraid of silence. Giving others the chance to respond without rushing in to fill awkward silences with solutions often will allow other people to fill in and to actually start to say something that they would like to say. And they'll start to share in those moments as well. And last, remember that a conversation is a dialogue. And in the words of Brené Brown, staying calm is indeed a superpower. It takes practice. If you feel yourself becoming defensive or frustrated, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, who do I really want to be in this moment? And I expect the answer is going to be, you want to be a respectful and compassionate human being. You want to be a loving daughter or son or a supportive friend. You want to help. First, start early. Don't wait for that crisis to happen. Prepare ahead of time. What's the ideal outcome here? And I know Kathy has given you some ideas of what to look for. Do some research so that you're ready with some suggestions. Timing is, of course, everything. Try to pick a quiet time with no distractions. Don't assume that you know all the answers. You may have done your research, but you need to be open to possibilities. And of course, you need to be open to the perspective of the person you're talking to. Check your attitude. If you believe it's going to be awful, it probably will be. Try to relax and remain loving and supportive. Some possible starting points for conversations you could try are, other than we need to talk, are, Mom, I have something I'd really like to discuss with you. Or, Dad, I'd like to talk about getting more help for you and Mom, but first I would like to get your point of view. It's a team approach. Make sure your siblings are involved and other family and friends that are part of your team. We don't age alone. Consider, are you really the best person to be having this difficult conversation? Perhaps your sister is a nurse and your parents seem to be more open to her suggestions about health issues than yours. Other perspectives may bring you insight that you didn't consider. For example, your doctor, a clergyman, some friends. The result may be a much less defensive reaction. Conflict resolution techniques talk about speaking from the I and not from the you. And of course, empathy is key. Speaking from I is a position where you're not accusing, and also you're not venting. Make sure you're asking questions and make sure you listen without interrupting. Give some examples. For example, Mom, I've noticed your clothes aren't fitting very well. Or I've noticed the fridge is empty. Are you having trouble getting groceries? Or Dad, your medication has expired. These are things that you are noticing. You are not in a position, again, to accuse them. Practice patience. You want the best outcome, absolutely. Part of achieving empathy with someone else is to paraphrase and repeat back to them what they are saying to you, just to ensure that you understand their perspective. And then, of course, remember that acknowledging their concerns doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with them. What it means is that you have listened and you want to understand. Agree on the way forward and make a plan together. While you're talking, keep notes and brainstorm some solutions. Find some common ground and build on that. For example, Mom, you said that getting groceries and making meals is getting more difficult. I found some companies that deliver nutritious meals for a reasonable price. What do you think about trying that? Again, find common ground. You're both agreed that this is a concern and go from there. Be persistent without pressure. Remember, this plan may not and probably will not all come together in one discussion. It may require several. And finally, ask for help. There are resources out there. Proactive Seniors is one of those resources. Thank you. Back to you, Kathy.
Thank you, Brenda. That was wonderful. And I'm echoing again. I'm going to take everyone off mute, or I think actually the audience, you have to unmute yourself. But go ahead and do that if you have a question. We're happy to stay on the webinar for as long as needed and answer any questions, or you can type any of them into the chat. I don't see any specific questions in the chat as I scroll through. I'll just have a quick look at it, but go ahead and ask a question. You'll just have to unmute. To do that, if you're not familiar, there's a little icon of a microphone and you just need to click it. Judy, can you try and unmute so I can see if it works?
Okay, I am muted.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Allow attendees to unmute. Yes, okay. Good. Ken, do you want to try and unmute and let us know if we can hear you, because Judy's registered differently than you are?
Here I am.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks. All right, so I'm just going to look at the chat and see. Brenda, you can help me. I'll start at the top. You start at the bottom. See if there's any questions here. Again, go ahead.
I think we'd certainly like to hear from anybody that has any tips or tricks on having those difficult conversations as well. If you've tackled something and it's gone well, or if you want to share something that's gone poorly, we'd certainly like to hear from you for sure.
I'd like to make a comment on that topic. I've experienced being present many times when the adult children are trying to have those conversations, and I'm there. And there's a lot of pushback from their parent or parents when the conversation is unfolding, even though the kids are clearly expressing their concerns and their ideas out of concern. The senior becomes defensive so quickly and wants to pull back and disagree with everything. And I just find, like you said, Brenda, that when you're communicating with them as if, let's just hear what the concerns are from the senior, when they can do that without saying, but Mom, this is what I'm worried about and you need to do this, and they come across strongly out of love and concern. But many times when I've sat in that meeting between kids and parents, that the adult kids speak up quickly because the senior parent is hesitating and trying to take it all in. And then if I've turned to them to the senior and said, okay, just tell me how you're feeling, then you get to hear their side of it. So I think the listening versus unloading all your concerns and thoughts and hopes for your parent or parents makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point, Judy. Good. Oh, good advice, Judy, from Lori. Thanks, Lori. So just if you have any questions, a couple things, you can ask them now if you want to. You could type them into the chat or just unmute yourself. We're happy to answer them. But you're always welcome to email us at Proactive Seniors, info@proactiveseniors.ca, or find us through our website. And just to reiterate what Brenda said earlier, is that we had a little bit of a problem with multiple links going on. Apologize for that. So if you missed the earlier part of this presentation, it will be recorded. It is recorded. And in about 24 hours, you'll find it on our website under the education tab. And you're certainly welcome to listen to it again or listen to it there.
Hi, this is Deanne.
Hi, Deanne.
Hi. I'm just curious. This is a pretty tough question, but the topic of the webinar really sparked my interest because of COVID. So, sorry, the dogs are fighting in the back. But when to ask for help being, I really think my mom's in a mental stress situation, and that I put equal with physical health, but I can't convince my siblings that we need to have some contact with her. So I don't know if that's too much to ask for you guys to advise on, but.
Oh, I'm not exactly sure on the question, Deanne, but right, you're so right. With COVID right now, seniors are really struggling. They're struggling because of isolation. They're struggling because of worry. They're restricted in being able to go out and attend their classes. And so I think the mental health of seniors, I think everyone's mental health, I can tell you mine has, but I know everyone's mental health has been challenged with COVID, but particularly seniors. And if you're struggling to get your siblings on board with having a conversation with your mom, I think the first thing to do is to talk to your siblings separately from your mom, because you want to make sure you guys are all on the same page first before you open that conversation up with your mom and ask her how she's doing and how you can help her. If they're not seeing the challenges that you're seeing, sometimes it really helps to just give them specific examples and share exactly what you're worried about and why, and see if they can kind of come to the same place you are, and then you can join together as a team in supporting your parent. I don't know, Brenda or Judy, do you have any other advice?
I do. I was thinking, listening to that, and even maybe thinking about my own family, because my mom lives alone. And I just find that what I've seen is that if any of the adult kids, if your siblings are really struggling with whatever's going on in their own life, that it's really hard to see outside of that and to understand, I've seen some, we'll call them behaviors, but I've seen some conversations or some ways that my mom has been, and I too, and I work, I'm in the world of seniors, and I can sometimes forget this about my own mom, that for her, like a whole lot of time goes by in a day where she's just trying to find something to keep herself busy. So she'll reach out to me. So, I have days where I have to work up my own little ounce of patience to have some interactions. And I think maybe if the siblings understood potentially what it's like for mom, versus not just about maybe what they're going through. And sometimes it's hard because everybody has their own level of understanding, and maybe that empathy, like the slide Brenda had, is that if we step into the shoes of the other person and understand that, and it's easy for people to forget. So like Kathy said, having that conversation with your siblings to help them see how hard it is for mom. And that maybe if everybody could share that, whatever works better for them. Some might have different techniques, some might not want to talk on the phone, if technology works, or if there's just ways that they can, do something and to help support. It's not unusual in a family that there's going to be some siblings understand it better, and maybe, do I dare say, sort of rise to the challenge, and others pull back. And for others it can be just, maybe it's the stuff that they're dealing with that makes it difficult for them. So you know, like you guys said, you know, have that conversation with them individually to help them realize that. So.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Judy.
much.
Yeah, we've just had a question, a really good question here from Alicia. She said, we've tried having some conversations and listening, but how do you deal with a stubborn, independent senior? We see this all the time. They still believe they are capable and they don't want to burden the family. So there's two points to that I'll address and see if Brenda and Judy have any thoughts too. So the stubborn independent senior and then the burden, those are two sort of separate issues. So, you know, we see that a lot, and seniors, grew up, I mean, they're from an era where they were very self-reliant, and they are often not comfortable asking for help. And so sometimes if the family is really not getting through to them, it could help to bring in somebody else, whether that's the family doctor or a professional or someone from a situation where they have particular knowledge that can help to kind of break down that wall and have someone else either have that conversation with your parents or facilitate the conversation. I am always amazed when we have a family meeting, the adult children will often say to me afterwards, I didn't know half that stuff about my parents. How did you get that out of them? And I think it's just having someone else there who's taking the approach from a professional perspective. They don't have a vested interest or an agenda. You know, we're really there because we're wanting to provide information, whether that be us or be a different health professional. I think it just changes the tone of the conversation. So you could try bringing someone else into that conversation if your parent is stubborn and fiercely independent. One of the messages that we often share is that if seniors don't make choices and decisions early, then they don't have very many choices or decisions at the end. And that's not to be, you know, causing any fear, but it really should help them think, would I rather talk about getting help now when I can choose from a number of different services? Or would I rather wait and then I'm in a position where I don't get to choose anymore? And so sometimes that message about just trying to help them retain choice, because independence and choice go hand in hand. And then your second point, Alicia, about them being a burden to the family. You know, we hear that a lot, and I think the message that needs to come from the kids is that they're not a burden. The burden is really the worry that they place on you if they won't open up to these conversations. So if they were to open up to these conversations, that takes away the burden. That takes away how you're feeling, how heavy it sits on your shoulders. So sharing that information with your parents can help to say, if you would just talk to me, if we could have this conversation, I would feel better. And when you say it like that, they often hear that message. So hopefully that helps. I don't know, Brenda or Judy, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Kathy. And starting early, and I think Teresa has brought up this point as well. You know, start early and don't wait until it hits total crisis stage, right? Like, introduce the topic, have those conversations, and come from the point of love and respect. You only want what's best for them, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that early conversation often helps everybody realize all the options that are just out there when needed, and there's better preparation, you know, so that they do realize. And I know that the many conversations that I've had is when seniors often think that their independence is being taken away and their choices are being taken away. And so a conversation from somebody outside of family often helps, because then we can help see from our perspective on what others have experienced. And I know many times it's the storytelling and other examples that have people going, oh, well, okay, you know, never thought about that, and help them realize too, for the adult kids, it's often really good for the parent to realize that support and other possibilities can bring back the quality family time of the dynamic of the relationship versus it being about tasks. And but the parent too, I find, is fearful that if there's all this intervention and help and all these other ideas, I've had many times where they're afraid that it'll put them in a situation where the adult kids then can say, well, okay, they've handed it over, and they might see their kids less. And that's their fear, because doing things with them and for them is part of the relationship and part of the connection. And so helping them all see that it can bring back the quality of the parent and adult-child relationship. And yeah, so having those conversations when it's an outside person can make a big difference to, for services like proactive seniors.
So when it just makes me think of one example that I've shared this with a lot of families, and it really resonates. We had a client who the daughter was retired, and she was preparing meals, bringing them to her mom. She was taking the laundry home, washing the laundry. She was doing the pharmacy run, getting the groceries, tidying up her mom's apartment. She was probably spending about 20 or more hours a week in support of her mom. And her mom didn't really realize that. She sort of only saw the time that the daughter was there as time that she was spending with her. And she didn't realize that there was a ton of time in the background that she was doing on behalf of her mother. And so the relationship was really starting to fall apart because there was some animosity between the daughter and the mom's lack of awareness. So we very gently kind of outlined what the daughter did on a day-to-day basis. And the mother immediately realized that she hadn't been acknowledging all of that outside support that was in the background, and the relationship improved dramatically. The mother said, okay, I get it, I'm going to have a cleaning lady come in. And then the next step was she started getting meals delivered a few months later. And then about 6 months later, she said, I think I'm ready to move into a retirement residence. And so the relationship went back to mother-daughter as opposed to mother-worker. And so that's just an example like Judy was talking about. I think we have another question here from Teresa. She says, I think one of the things I've seen both in my own relationship with my mom and her relationship with my brothers is that this relationship is like any other relationship in that we may have to play the long game. Very true. If we come in hot with our agenda, that can build a barrier that's nearly impossible to breach. You hit the nail on the head. You can't come in hot. You have to come in baby steps. We always say baby steps, and just come in with a gentle, listening, compassionate approach. Okay, I'm just scrolling down. I don't see any other questions here in the chat. If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to ask. We're happy to help. Otherwise, I think maybe we are done. It was good. Again, you can, go ahead.
One of the things that I've used in the past is talking about the future. And that is with seniors to say, what are your goals and wishes for the next, it depends on the individual, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. And given what's happened so far, how do you see that playing out? And quite often they will start thinking about where they want to live and what issues they see coming up, and it's a easy way to get started.
That's a great point, Judith. And when we start our conversations with our clients, we always start with that. What are your goals and wishes? Because if we're all working towards those goals and wishes, then everyone's on the same page. Yeah, right. That's a really, really good point. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you guys very much for joining us. And you can always look at the video. I think Brenda has a handout. Did you make a handout, Brenda? And so there's a handout on the website, which you can find under education, that has some details and some information if you missed anything or you wanted to have some notes that you can share with a family member. And always feel free to reach out. We're always happy to take your questions and see if there's any advice or support that we might be able to help you with. So thanks, everyone.
Can I say that after the last webinar, I had a few people get back to me that were saying they couldn't find it on the website. And so, you know, the explanation I was giving was if you're going to the education tab and you scroll to the bottom and you see the icon that I guess looks like a PDF icon, but in there, you know, of those two, you could click on them. And for some reason, people were kind of missing that. I'm not sure why, but there were a handful that I had to really explain exactly what to do and what to look for in order for them to find the links. So
well, that's good to know. Thanks, Judy. Yeah, so it's on that education page down at the bottom. Maybe we can figure out how, and it usually takes us a few hours to get that on there, so don't look right away. give us a little time to get this uploaded and then on.
And in the last one too, we did do it in a blog as well. The tips that we had covered off in that PDF are also in the blog. So yeah, there's two separate areas. You can find it on the website now. Yeah. And then for this one today, as Kathy said, give me a little bit of time and we'll get it in both those areas, but it will for sure be in the education piece too. Thank you.
Okay.
That was an awesome presentation, Brenda and Kathy. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Bye, everyone. Have a happy holiday, safe and healthy. Bye-bye.